Hello, everyone. This is question 34 of our 100 clinically oriented anatomy questions. Let's get straight into it. The question says arteriography of an 82-year-old female reviews a possible cause for limb pain during her workout routines in the health spa. The artery that was occluded is one that should have been demonstrable, passing between the proximal part of the space between the tibia and the fibula. Which of the following arteries is most likely affected? The deep femoral artery, popliteal artery, posterior tibial artery, fibula or the peroneal artery, and the anterior tibial artery. The question is practically asking us which of these arteries passed through the proximal parts of the space between the tibia and the fibula. Okay, so since this is about leg, we can easily run out some options here. Deep femoral artery is an artery of the thigh, and yeah, I think that's the only artery that supplies the thigh. Yes, option A is out of the options we'll consider. So we are left with option B, C, D, and E. Now, the femoral artery, after passing through the adductor hiatus, it enters the popliteal fossa and, of course, becomes the popliteal artery. So the popliteal artery descends downward in the popliteal fossa. Then, at the lower border of the popliteus, it divides into two major arteries, which are the anterior tibial artery and the posterior tibial artery. So the posterior tibial artery runs downwards that way. It runs downward posteriorly, and then so later on, it gives the fibular artery or the peroneal artery that supplies the posterior compartment of the leg and also gives some branches to the lateral compartment of the leg. Then the posterior tibial artery itself also supplies the posterior compartment of the leg. So the anterior tibial artery is the smaller of the two terminal branches of the popliteal artery. The posterior tibial artery is the larger branch, while the anterior tibial artery is the smaller branch. So the anterior tibial artery branches off from the popliteal artery at the lower border of the popliteus, then it pierces the two heads of the tibialis posterior muscle, then enters the anterior compartment of the leg at the opening in the proximal part of the interosseous membrane between the tibia and the fibula. So there's an opening in the proximal part of the interosseous membrane of the tibia and the fibula, and that is where the anterior tibial artery passes through after it pierces the two heads of the tibialis posterior. So it enters the anterior compartment of the leg and it supplies the muscles of the anterior compartment of the leg. And then on reaching the middle point between the lateral malleolus and the medial malleolus, continues into the dorsum of the foot at dorsalis pedis, and then continues its life afterwards. So the correct answer here is the anterior tibial artery because they said which one passes between the proximal aspect of the space between the tibia and the fibula. That is the proximal aspect, the opening in the proximal part of the interosseous membrane. And that is the anterior tibial artery. The posterior tibial artery just descends downward from the popliteal artery like that. Then later on, it bifurcates into um, then later on, it gives the fibular branch, that is the fibular artery, the peroneal artery, that supplies the posterior compartment and gives some branches to the lateral compartment of the leg. So the correct answer is option E, which is the anterior tibial artery. I hope you understand this and it's explanatory enough, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.